All right, folks, welcome back to the Scarlet and Great podcast, Scarlet and Great Empire here on YouTube. However you're listening, viewing, whatever, we appreciate you. Please like and subscribe. Subscribe to our show. Leave us a review. Corey, I forgot to dig up an iTunes review while I'm doing the housekeeping. If you could dig up an iTunes review for us to read later in the show, I would be forever in your debt. And if you forget, forever. Well, for a couple days, I'd be in your debt.
No, it's forever.
I already said it. So please like and subscribe. Leave us a rating and a review on iTunes. That helps us out a lot. Thank you for everyone who is doing so. And interact with us on Twitter at ScarletGreatJL, at ScarletGreatCT. As always, your co-host, Johnny Bullet, here with Florida Cory Thompson. Florida Cory is doing a little bit of legwork, a little bit of research for us to see what the fans have cooked up for us. Cory and I are going to dive into the Alabama National Championship game here in just a moment. I will say the plan is to do another one of our live shows with Q&A and all kinds of fan interaction. Plan to have a few guests. Right now, I've heard a big-time, long-time Buckeye fan and recruiting insider Buck Goldpants is actually going to make an appearance on the show.
You look like Uncle Rico from what's that movie?
Napoleon Dynamite.
Napoleon Dynamite. Yeah, I was way off in my own head, so glad you.
I could only imagine what you were going to say. I think Uncle Rico from Terminator.
No, wait.
And I got another feeler out for another invite, but we're going to try to have a pretty fun show there. Look, this national championship game, for all the marbles, I think everybody will be pretty amped for the show, and I look for the fans to bring the heat with that as well. So what we're going to do for this show is going to do a rundown. I'm going to talk about some stats I think are important to me quickly. This is not going to be paralysis by analysis. And then Cory's going to talk about a few stats that he thinks are important to him. Then I think it's important to talk about for a moment why we can't hang our hat on stats so much, because it's not really fair.
So we're going to give them stats and then tell them not to worry about the stats.
Or maybe why, if the stats don't favor Ohio State, why that's not gloom and doom, because a tale of two ball clubs, two different football teams, I think, what we saw early in the season. Or the first 6 games versus last week. So,
by the way, I'm looking at our reviews real quick. 49 reviews total.
Yeah.
All of them 5 stars except for 1 star. Whoever gave us a 1 star, you can shove it. Thank you.
That was my mother, but she was just reviewing me as a son, not as us as a podcast. I told her it was not the appropriate place to do that. She didn't understand, new with technology and all that things. No, Mom, that's my podcast with my friend. That's not where you review your child. Whatever it says, leave a review.
I stand by what I said.
Yeah.
I actually even more so that I know it's your mom.
Yeah. Well, do you have one, Cory? Do you have one that you'd like to share?
You know what? I think I will.
Okay, let's go. Let's hear it.
Oh, shoot. I just lost it. There it is. I'm not good with technology either. This is from Sea Dog Yo-Yo. Buckeye Guy 5489. I don't know if it's Twitter handle or what. I have always listened to these two, and they are a dynamic duo. Who's Batman? Who's Robin?
Who's Steph?
I used to listen to what's that?
Who's Steph? Who's KD?
There you go. Who's the snake? I used to listen to just Cory, and then him and Johnny merged, and that's a long time listener, and it was like a match made in heaven. They are both hilarious, but you didn't really see that until they collaborated, and I am so glad they did. I am telling you, I crack up all the time, and I also appreciate their knowledge of Ohio State, even though they don't live in Ohio. I don't hold that against us. I can't think of another podcast that could do as good a job as they do and not live in Ohio. Bang. So it's basically like one of those, like, you're really good looking for how old you are.
You're pretty for a plain girl.
Got great personality.
For a big girl, she's pretty hot.
Exactly. She lost 30 pounds. I got suspended from Twitter, so I don't get to interact with them like I used to, but I'm not even shocked by that. But I still follow them and listen to every show. I highly suggest you do too. 1 second you are listening to them talk Ohio State, and the next you are cracking up. It's hilarious. Try it now. 5-star review. Thank you.
Yes, that's good. And Corey, it goes back to my theory that our listeners are degenerates.
Mhm.
Here it is. We have a guy says, "Hey, I'm banned from Twitter." So that's either the president of the United States or it's a degenerate, like I thought.
Didn't even think about
He's one or the other, but
Does Trump listen to our show?
probably. Listen to me. It's a fantastic podcast. Everybody agrees. Listen to me. No, listen. Hey, thank you, buddy, so much for that review. And you've been listening for that long. Even better. Thank you so much. I
Man,
don't
you
care.
listened to us solo? Man, you really were desperate for
You
Buckeye
are.
content.
You are. And thank you for holding on tight. So join us on our live shows and interact with us. Catch us on YouTube.
Thank you, Mr. President, for a week and a half. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, Corey. Let's get into some stats. I'm going to talk
Mhm.
about a few. Again, not paralysis by analysis, but just a few things that I think are interesting. Shout out again, as always. I like to shout out college football nerds to their what they do is because I think this is the best way to analyze teams defensively. At least it is the percentages of your opponent's averages that you allow. So whatever all your opponent's average outside of you, and then what did you allow? So if you play an opponent that averages 300 yards a game passing and 150 yards a game rushing, how much of those percentages did you allow? That adjusts for competition wonderfully, I think. I think that's just an awesome, awesome stat. Um, Tale of two, caveat here. Ohio State only played 6 games, and I think 7 now, and I think they've only really brought their A game to 2 of them. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, that's fair. I think then they've had like you mean total game, right? Like
Yeah,
whole
yeah,
game.
yeah. Oh,
Okay, because
yeah.
they've had quarters and halves that are good, but then they just
Sure. But
fall
then when you
apart.
look at just the numbers,
Yeah,
like, "Oh, man, that didn't look like a great game by the numbers." I mean, you're
yeah.
like, "Man," but for a quarter there, they looked
For a
jaw-dropping.
quarter, that was a national title team for a quarter. They
Exactly.
could put 4 of those together, they could have something.
Yeah, so that's why I think what I'm about to read doesn't favor or Ohio State too. Doesn't show them in such great light. However, I think it is at least important to get a look at the other guys, I guess. For opponents' averages allowed, Ohio State, and this will give you context because you've watched the Buckeyes and you've understood what the Buckeyes do. Ohio State averages 85% of opponent rush averages allowed.
Mhm.
So now that doesn't, you look at that and you think, I thought it'd be better than that. And I did too. Maybe that goes back to when Ohio State really puts the clamps on, they really put the clamps on. When they don't, they don't. But when they really put those front 7 clamps on, it's hard to run the ball. However, that came out to 85%. Alabama actually only allows 76% of their opponents' rushing averages. That's phenomenal. However, as me and Corey discussed, I would maybe theorize that you don't get to run the ball very much against Bama because you're down by a lot because their offense is awesome. So I
Yeah,
would
there's a
think,
million ways it doesn't discredit Alabama's on defense, but there's a million ways that could be skewed. I remember one year with the Packers, they were number 1 in the league in rush defense. That's because they were number 29th in pass defense. Like everybody's just
mm,
airing it out on them.
mm,
I'm sure that has a little bit to do with Ohio State's rush ranking as well because they've been so easily aired on this year. But
ooh, that's a good point.
but at the same time, when we watch them, they are stifling the run. So it's not like they're getting gashed, but they just go away from it because the pass game's working so much. Not to mention we're another team that's usually ahead of people. Well, we aren't ahead of people like Alabama is, but we have been ahead of people. So
Yeah,
uh,
I mean, if you look and say, look, opponent averages say 200 yards a game rushing, we limit them to 170. That's what 85% would be. That's fair. I think though when Ohio State really shows up, they can clamp that up even more.
I agree.
It's-
They're number 2 in the country against the run. They've been exceptional against the run this year, and they've been in more close games than Alabama, where teams can still run the ball. Now Indiana's the exception, where they were down by a mile and decided to air it out on us, and it worked. But
yeah,
Northwestern could still run the ball on us. Clemson still had opportunities to run on us, and we clamped them up hardcore. In fact, that was a major focus of our game plan was stopping Trevor Lawrence and Etienne in the run game.
obviously, yeah. Yeah, this is weird stuff too. Like, well, Indiana throw the ball a lot too because Indiana just flat can't run the ball. No matter who they
That's
play, they
true.
can't
Yeah,
do it.
their running game wasn't good going into the game. Sure, that's
Yeah,
true.
and it was made look even worse. And I think Penn State's another good example of a team that wasn't a good team or anything, but they could really lock up the run when they focused on it. Clemson, the primary example there. Opponents' pass averages allowed. Alabama allows 87% of their opponent averages. That's a pretty good stat. It's not
Mhm.
great, but it's good enough on, I think, yards per attempt. Again, I'm referencing college football nerd. Yards per attempt are in the 20s nationally, which is a goodish, not great by any means defense, but a good defense. And look, the brick wall defense days are kind of over. People are going to score the ball with the way the rules are, with the way the
If
offenses
you're
are
holding
set
on
up.
good offenses between 20 and 30 points, you had a great defensive day. That's really what it's becoming now to.
It really is. It's like the Big 12 was just ahead of its time, I guess. Let them score, get a key stop on some third downs,
Well,
get a key turnover, get a
they
shut
did
out in
this
the
and
red zone.
they were on steroids with this stat though. It's like it's 56-48. I mean, like, hey,
Right,
great
right, right.
defensive day.
Yeah, but I just mean that model of it really
Got to
comes
give
down
Alex
to.
Grinch some credit though. I've hit him in the past. Oklahoma's defense, so they're top 10 against the run. They've actually been a lot better than recent years with Alex Grinch.
And I
They're
think
better.
18th in yards per game.
Yeah, they've been getting a lot better on defense. Can't argue that. Now it cost them 2 games no matter what this year, so maybe it doesn't matter at the end of the day. But if they get to the playoffs and they have a tougher defense, they're going to be a tougher out than they've been in the past.
Yeah, and I mean, they'll have a more experienced quarterback too. That guy was a walk-in turnover the first 2 games of
Yeah,
the year.
exactly. True.
Uh, and for context, so you say, what's Ohio State average? Because our pass defense is not good. Okay, you're right. We average 106% of opponent averages. Our defense is not built for it. We don't have these alpha dog corners. We play a scheme sometimes that Cory and I both think is frustrating. The soft cover 3 that seeds yards, especially
Hmm.
Cory when we were given 8-yard cushions on the 13-yard line versus Clemson. It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Did not think that was a great strategy.
There's times I don't get why we're bailing. It's like 3rd and 3, bail. What?
Yeah, and even you say, okay, well, what about the 2 teams? What about Clemson? Because Clemson actually put up 400 yards, and they don't average 400 yards. We allowed more
Mhm.
than Clemson is usually what they usually take. And of passing yards. Now, the caveat is 400 yards nowadays is not good enough to win a ball game. 400 yards, 444 yards was their total yardage. That's not good enough to win a ball game if you face a high powered offense. So we said, take your 400. We'll limit you to 44 in the ground. We'll win the game. Again, that's just the tale of two fronts, the front 7 and the back end there. So Alabama,
Well,
though, with a pretty decent defense, 76% and 87%.
yeah, I agree. But Ryan Day was kind of alluding to it in his own press conferences. Yardage just doesn't matter as much as it used to. If you allow 500 yards, but you only allow 13 points, I mean, who cares? They got 500 yards. Now, I'm looking at one valuable stat here, and where the two defenses are actually not bad. And they're not, I mean, Alabama's defense is better than ours in a sense, but I still maintain their strength of schedule. I just don't know. And not that ours was great,
Yeah,
but they're allowing 0.259 points per play, and we're allowing 0.318 points per play. That's a 20 ranking difference. We're 29th and they're 9th. That's not that big a difference. I think that's the key more than anything is like when Ohio State's allowing yards, like allowing 400 yards to Trevor Lawrence, you'd think we'd allow 40 some points, but
right,
we allowed 28. One was kind of a garbage-ish touchdown. Is because it's, you're getting timely stops. You're getting a turnover when you need
right.
it.
Well, they did that. I can think of 2 huge ones where I didn't think the defense looked very good against Northwestern, but you look up and they surrendered 10 points. That's a pretty
Yeah.
good day. But they let them. They were about to score their 17th points, like
Hilliard.
in the third quarter. Turnover. Indiana, end of the first half, was really on a nice drive. Boom, big hit fumble on like the
Mhm.
10-yard line, about to punch.
Exactly.
So
Timely turnovers, timely stops. It's
Big
what our
12.
defense. Yeah.
The Big 12 was ahead of its time.
Except less points allowed. Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, but
yeah,
yeah,
more
but that's
stops.
I think it's a new aesthetic that people are not used to because we grew up in the era of the Ravens being stifling.
Jim
Last year we were
Tressel defenses.
this defense that just don't allow anything, and the Ravens became the best defense ever statistically speaking because they allowed the fewest points ever in 2000. And then people started to make that argument. Yards are not where it's at. It's about points allowed.
Well, the
I
Patriots have been doing that for years.
Yeah, exactly. You know what? You're right, because I've been watching. We watched the Patriots for years as well. We think, man, they're really giving up a lot, but they don't get points against them. They claim up in the red zone. So this is where the game's also tricky. Alabama is actually really good at the opponent red zone scoring. They're number 4 in the country. It's only allowing 66% of the time their opponent to score in the red zone. We're not great at that. We're 82%. That's 57th in the country. That's where I think their defense is significantly better than ours.
Yeah, it seems like we let you march down and score, or we don't. Now, granted, there's those few hiccups, or a few good fortunate things like I named against Indiana, against the end of the game when Clemson had to force it, we get a turnover in the end zone, against Northwestern as well. But that's how Clemson's drives were, right? They had us or they didn't. 4 touchdowns or they didn't move the ball.
Didn't
One or the
seem
other.
like they were punting the ball too often, as much as Trevor Lawrence, I think, fumbled 2 or 3 times. It's just we got to the quarterback. Can we get to the quarterback on Mac Jones? That's going to be a big key, because I don't know who's out. Tyreek Smith is rumored to be out, but he could have had a false positive. Togiai is rumored to be out, but he could have had a false positive. We just don't know. We're not going to know until probably a couple hours before the game, for sure, officially. Or until Ohio State says, all right, fine, Austin Ward, you can release the information,
Yeah.
But
I just, where my gut is, I think those 2 guys are out. That's
probably,
yeah.
and it's going to be a big loss, especially with a good pass rusher off the edge against that offensive line. But again, I do think if Harrison and Friday are back, you do kind of make up for the Smith loss in a way, because I think Harrison's every bit as ability wise as good as Smith.
Yeah, I think Togiai is the guy he's better than the next man up by the wider margin than I think Smith is.
Yeah, you don't want to lose Togiai, obviously. That's tough. But, I do have faith that, Kieran's on the show talking about they're going to move Haskell over to that 1 and to stuff the run. And then they have, guys like Vincent, and who I still think is on pace to take that Haskell Garrett type leap. And, Antoine Jackson, who's a solid rotational player, and Jerron Cage, who's been good in the 1, apparently in practice all week. So I don't know, guys. Are they huge losses? Of course they are. You don't ever want to lose guys and say, yeah, it's okay. But at the same time, it's still to me at a position where it's winnable. If we lost one of the top 2 receivers we have, like Olave or Wilson, or we lost Fields, I would start to say, okay, we might be in some trouble here, because we've already seen what happens when we lose Olave or Wilson, and the offense doesn't look like the offense anymore. And you have to ask, no matter what, if Togiai and Smith are there or not, with this Alabama offense, you have to be able to match points with them. You have to be able to score with them. So to me, it's almost like, well, it makes the defense a little bit worse for sure. Tommy is definitely a different dude in the middle, but at the same time, as long as the offense is healthy, we have a chance. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, Tommy is a huge difference maker. A huge difference maker. Clemson game, he was very, very good. I think he made a lot of pressure plays that we just don't see. Because that's what. Look, Cory, going back to these stats here, for me, also you're talking about scoring defense that's what matters. Points win the games, yard doesn't. We don't put yardage on the scoreboard at the end of the game and say, actually they had more yards, they win, or else we would have beaten Clemson twice in a row. But I think Alabama's at like 23 points a game, and we were at 28 points a game, respectively. Now, granted, I think, again, that we have clammed up and been a stingier team as of late, and gotten better as of late than earlier in the season. So that it's an improved defense. But Cory, this defense, talking about Togiai's impact, but overall, our defensive game plan against Clemson, I think it's the same against Alabama. You got to dance with the one who brought you. I'm just not going to look at Sean Wade and Seven Banks and say, it's on you to lock these guys up, or we don't win. Nah, we're going to help you out with some linebackers and safeties, and we're going to lock them up. I don't think we have the horses for that. Front 7 pressure is where we live, and that's where we make our money.
I don't know that we can get front 4 pressure the way we did on Clemson. Against this team.
This O-line's a little bit better, or maybe
it's definitely better. And somebody messaged me. If you heard that, but anyway, it's definitely better. They are losing Dickinson up the middle, which is a tough loss for them. I gotta feel that this is going to be a little bit of a make or break in a way because we're going to be blitzing a lot. We have to get pressure on Mac Jones, but they run a lot of RPO type plays, quick hitch type plays, quick throws, and we got to get home. And I just wonder if we're just going to try to rush forward first, sit back, and see what their passing game plan is going to be, and keep the linebackers in the middle or not to clog up that middle, or else are we going to bring the house and it opens up for free plays, and you're going to have to really count on Wade and Banks and Proctor and company to make open field tackles
And
because Mac
Proctor's
Jones is
huge.
good enough. Yeah, he's good enough and accurate enough to burn you on those. So,
Mhm.
yeah, everybody says, well, it's a statue quarterback. Great. I was like, well, yes and no. They have superb wide receivers. They look like they're getting Waddle back. I don't expect him to play at 100% or anything like that, but he'll be back, and he's still a decoy and a threat no matter what you do. And obviously, Devontae Smith is an absolute monster as a wide receiver. 105 catches, you're almost 1,700 yards and 20 touchdowns. He's been amazing. Well deserved of the Heisman, obviously. But I mean, you don't want to put Wade on an island with him. Obviously, Wade is not really shown to be a Jeff Okuda, and I'm
And
not trying
how's it
to.
and we're gonna make him bail. We just do.
Yeah, it's what we do.
That's not gonna stop a slant RPO.
No, that's
He's
the
gonna catch
problem. Yeah,
it he's gonna catch it as fast as he is with an 8-yard cushion with
yeah.
him backing and Smith slanting. That's a massive cushion. Like you said, Proctor's gonna have to have a huge game to come clean stuff up.
Yeah, the single high is going to have to absolutely clean stuff up. Him and Ransom are going to have to be on Johnny on the spot with the open field tackles because we got to blitz. We got to get there. Without Tyreek Smith, I mean, I could see Browning becoming a rush end a lot in this game. And Hilliard playing a lot of linebacker behind him, and Hilliard's going to be key as well because of the fact he's such a smart, cerebral player, and he's a big play linebacker, and he has been for us this season. We're going to need. I think we're going to live on defensive side of the ball. We're going to live and die with the idea that they're going to get yards. Just live with that, fans. If you're watching the game, don't be mad because they got a 12-yard hook or whatever. It's going to happen. This
Yeah.
is what Bama is not going to be stopped or stifled. But you got to live with the fact that we're going to have to create timely turnovers. We're going to have to, if we can get pressure with that front four, that could change the game entirely.
Yeah.
It could. But I
it's
don't know if they can, but they have to. And here's another thing: even if we're not getting pressure with the front four on 5, if we force Alabama to switch their protections, where they keep Ty Billingsley in and they keep Harris in, you're taking weapons off the field for them. But then you allow for extra coverage in the back. So it's like, okay, that front four has got to be just play the games of their lives, essentially. Especially with the absence of possibly Tyreek Smith and Togiai, because Togiai is not just a run stuffer, as you pointed out. He can create pressure and havoc up in the middle, especially with Dickinson out. So it'll be key. Can they get there without blitzing, and can they keep it all in front of them?
Yeah. I think they're gonna have to. I'm all right with the blitz because I don't think the linebacker in coverage really it's gonna limit Alabama too much, and that's not our game. Now and then to
I think it
close
limits the RPO. Yeah.
it can, yeah. But I think like with Clemson, I was content to send them because when we sent them, even when we didn't get home with them, if there was a little bit longer developing play and we were sinking back in that zone, it just worked. It just
Yeah.
caused enough.
We got to hope Alabama's calling longer developing plays. I mean,
Yeah, which they don't always do. Or even if
No.
it's a moderate developing play, um, we got home so quick that there should have been more sacks, but Lawrence would struggle, force a throw out real quick. And Cory, that goes back something that I saw on film. When teams like to do what we do, press the slot and bail the outside corner, Alabama just throws a bubble screen.
Yeah.
To Devontae Smith. You know what? Shaun Wade's gonna have to be a really good tackler. Seven Banks gonna have to be a really good tackler. That's a scary dude to just flip the ball out to with 10
I do
yards.
think that I do trust them in tackling, to be honest with you, but even more so than I do coverage. I think that they do throw bubble schemes. We do have the ability we have the speed and the ability to break it up. But a lot of teams that you are successful with that on is your teams you're just physically outmatched. You just physically outmatched on. But
and you get that help with Hilliard too on that.
Oh yeah, Hilliard can play, almost safety, so because he's that athletic. So it's just gonna, I mean, Zach Smith talks about it on Menace to Sports all the time. Can't have missed tackles. You cannot. You have to limit that to single digits. We apparently had 11 against Clemson. I didn't even feel that when I watched it. Didn't feel that way. But Zach was bringing that up on his podcast, and I was 11.
Well, when your offense scores 49 points, hides a lot of boo-boos on the
That's true.
defense.
Yeah, that's when you can score from 56 yards out. Yeah.
Yeah. What Corey? What when you look at this team, it could they have. I will argue, they're better up front, and we need to. Our defense is front seven. That's our defense. Front seven pressure. Stop the run. Pressure the quarterback. And I'll be honest, the eye discipline and this film study discipline that our front seven showed last game was so good. Whatever we have cooked up this time, I think they'll be disciplined at, because Najee Harris is a receiving threat out of the backfield, 350 yards receiving and couple touchdowns, 3 touchdowns as well, 9.6 a catch. I think it will be harder. I think Harris is a better true between the tackles runner than Clemson, or at least got a better line than what
Etienne.
Etienne. Yeah, at least the line is better.
Almost 1,400 yards rushing this year too.
Yeah, it's going to be tougher to limit him, but if he is limited, if you just run up and are clocking him and putting pressure on Jones, then I think that is the key to it. So Jones is going to get his, Smith's going to get his, Waddle may even get his, Mechie even will get thrown in there. But can you just say, Mac Jones, I need you to throw for 500 to beat us? And I don't know that you can. 500, that's a lot to ask of a quarterback, even one that good. 500 is a lot to ask. So Corey, I want to ask you this question first. How confident were you? Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Going into the 2014 Alabama game.
I wasn't.
Yeah.
I mean, we had Cardale going in. I didn't know how well he would play. Defense was, I mean, you felt like we deserved to be there because of the Wisconsin win, but when we got matched up with Alabama, I was like, it's probably going to be a quick out,
Yeah.
Which, okay. But again, I will say Mac Jones better than Blake Sims. So I never thought Blake Sims was that good. It was probably the worst quarterback of the Saban era.
Yeah.
So we got a little, and then they decided Derrick Henry was supposed to be a non-factor. Lane Kiffin did as offensive coordinator, so that was a blessing because he was starting to gash us a little bit as we wore down. But they made some mistakes, and that really helped us win that game. Of course, the pick six for Steve Miller, things like that, But I wasn't confident at all. When I got 21-6, I actually thought to myself, why? Why can't we play with a team like this? I don't understand. And
Yeah.
then, of course, they came back, and we all know what happened. But
let me tell you the similarities I see with that team.
Okay.
In this game. The 2014 team, the bulk of the season probably was a quick out against Bama.
Mm-hmm.
They morphed and got better late season. They just did. They just got way better.
Really started with Michigan too.
Yeah. But even that, by the numbers, what was it? A 14-point win? And on a down year for Michigan.
Well, we were ahead by 21 in that game.
Yeah, I think was it 14 when JT broke his ankle. I think it was something like that.
It was 14 or so, and then Zeke broke off that 4th and 1 run, and
And then I mean, you look at overtime with Penn State, playing close with Indiana for 3.5 quarters.
Minnesota was close, 24-17. That wasn't a blowout.
Yeah, you get all that, and then you look at this explosion against Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
And what I had confidence in is, one, the defense got way better, to blank Wisconsin, who was favored to win that game. And two, the little bit of confidence I had going in, not a ton, but a little bit of confidence going into the Bama game. I would look at people and I go, guys, I don't know very many teams that would beat Wisconsin 59-0. And I heard somebody tell me, they beat a overrated team in a bad conference.
That's what everybody was saying. Well, we found out Wisconsin was just overrated.
Yeah, it was a Tennessee fan that told me, and I was living in that.
Always a Tennessee fan.
Overrated team in a bad conference. There's other teams out there that could beat Wisconsin 59-0. I'm like, guys, they might not be world beaters, but they were like 13th in the country. You don't beat anybody by 60 points in the Power 5. That's a lot. Like, people just, I'm like, man, I don't think Bama's beating them that bad. And that gave me a little bit of confidence. I don't know anybody in the country who's beating Clemson by 21. Nobody.
I don't know anybody in the country who's being ahead of Clemson by 28 at one point in that game.
Yeah. Now, granted, styles make fights. I think we were preparing for Clemson for 2 weeks. I think Ryan Day really wanted it. I think the team was motivated.
I think it was
Yada,
more than 2
yada, yada,
weeks. I think all year we had kind of had Clemson on the back of our mind, kind of like we do Michigan. I think we had Clemson on the back of our minds.
It could have been, but I mean, real game prep. You and I
Yeah.
both heard during the Northwestern week they were prepping for Clemson. And
It
so
showed.
yeah, yeah, it did. So all that goes into it, but still, the team was on fire, Corey, and
Mhm.
played better, like it found itself. That's what reminds me of that 2014 team. So, Corey, um, why can Ohio State win this game, and what might an Ohio State win look like?
Well, Fields going to have to play another great game, obviously. I think we have the edge at quarterback over Mac. I mean, I'm not dissing Mac Jones, but I think Fields is a guy that is a transitional. He I
Transcendent.
think transcendent. Thank you. He's transcendent as far as a quarterback talent concerned. I think they have the edge at running back, but I don't think that's
Wait, did you mean transgender?
yes.
Okay, I didn't want to put the wrong word in there.
Transgender. Why would I mean that?
I look, I never want to assume. Just like so.
You don't have to assume my gender. I'm a guy. It's
Okay.
okay.
I never want to assume what you mean, and I know that you like to be very woke sometimes. So I
It's
just
true. Yeah.
all right. So he is a transcendent trans person of a quarterback.
Anyway, he's a transcendent quarterback talent wise, and I get of course I don't know that Sermon's you can't say Sermon's playing worse than Najee Harris right now. Not the way he's playing. Our offensive line's really good. I kind of hope Paris Johnson Jr. is starting at left guard. To be honest with you,
I do too.
but that being said, Sermon has come into his own. The offensive line's playing well. Justin Fields is playing really well. He's a transgender talent, and
I knew you meant it.
anyway, um, anyway, we're losing like 100 listeners now. But that being said, I think the offense is going to have to win the game for them. I think the defense is going to have to do just enough. This is a game, if we win, it's going to be 49-42. Defense does just enough. It doesn't look great, and people come out of this game, man, Kerry Coombs needs to be fired, not realizing Alabama's one of the best offenses ever. This is one of those games where they're going to – I mean, I guarantee they're going to hate on Kerry Coombs a lot this game. Not even because the defense playing that bad. It's just not realize who you're playing.
Alabama's going to do what they're doing, yeah.
Yeah, I think if we win, it's going to be one of those where we have a couple timely turnovers, a couple timely stops. Justin Fields makes them pay. And I actually think we can move the ball in this defense, especially through the air. And I think that'll open up run game opportunities with our offensive line. I'm going to say it right now, Bama, look, you are a great team, a great program with the GOAT of college coaches, without question, in my opinion. Nick Saban and then everybody else, as far as I'm concerned. And we haven't faced a team with your level of talent this year, because Clemson is not as talented as Bama. But you haven't faced a team as talented as we are this year. And our offensive line is the best offensive line you will face all year easily. And we finally found our stride in the run game. We're running on defenses that are normally pretty good against the run, and we're running pretty easily on them. I'm not saying we're going to put up easy yards on Bama. They're not Clemson or Northwestern, but we are going to be able to run the ball. I'm confident, because Sermon's on another level right now. And Justin Fields, you have to continue to look for your checkdowns and your tight ends. You can't just focus on Olave and Wilson. If he gets into a zone where he's just focusing on those two, Ryan Day needs to take the helmet off him and slap him.
Yeah.
Say, look, I thought
Ryan Day's got to scheme him up some tight ends. I think that's what it comes down to.
Well, sometimes he does, and he doesn't even look at them. So
he's still missing checkdowns. He missed JSN once. He missed Farrell once. He missed.
Yeah, I can handle a handful rather than every play.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But Justin, you also got to be willing to run the ball, Justin. You have to do whatever it takes to get that first down and move the chains. I mean, don't sit back in the pocket thinking you're going to wait for Olave to break a bracket, and come back and finally get open. You got to just, not there. Get another read or run, or look for the check down.
Don't stare down Trey Sermon in double coverage when Jackson Smith and Jigba's wide open.
Yeah, in a wheel route, you're like, whatever, and just
like this was the best play.
We can't have to. Yeah, Justin can't be missing opportunities. He's got to make good decisions. And I know it's cliche to say that, but last game was the first game I saw him make just really good decisions almost all game. and really only a couple of throws or a couple of misreads, I could say, okay, you missed one. Every quarterback that has them. I've seen Aaron Rodgers have them. Tom Brady's had them. But, you need to make more big plays than you do mistakes. Really, that's it.
Yeah, I would say, what's the game look like? Why Ohio State can win? I think because they're coming into their own. They're a team that just housed Clemson. And I think Ryan Day, Sarkisian is a great offensive mind. Ryan Day's a great student of the game and great at picking you apart. Nick Saban noted it. Nick Saban. Brent Venables isn't even worthy to be mentioned in the same sentence as him. So I don't think you can look and say, Saban defense really good. Saban defense is it? Saban
Hey,
defense,
Cruiser.
yeah. Saban
It's his
defense.
birthday. Yeah. Happy birthday, Cruiser.
Appreciate that. Saban defenses are good, but these are not up to Saban defenses of old. And I think Ryan Day can do what he does. Even if Alabama jumps out to a lead, it looks something like the Florida game where Florida was out of reach, then catch up, out of reach, then catch up. You just got to stay close. And then defensively, you can't surrender 50. 50 is a lot to ask an offense to score. You stay close, defense, make it hard on them a time or two, but offense just got to keep this game within a score. And then defense, you need just to cause a little bit of havoc. One turnover, a defensive score, a fumble, something like that. If the offense just keeps it close, and then the defense creates a little bit of havoc late, just a little. I'm not asking to be world beaters here. A little bit of havoc late, then I think that is what an Ohio State win would look like.
Yeah, I think it is the three keys of the game. I don't think you're going to totally stop Najee Harris. You're not going to totally stop Devon A. Smith. But the three keys: create turnovers. I know it sounds cliche. You got to create timely turnovers because you're not stopping them. 2, you got to score in the red zone, touchdowns in the red zone, because they're really good at we're not great in the red zone on offense, and they're really good on defense in the red zone. You have to win that match. And
maybe
3,
we just go for big plays a lot too then.
Well, not only that, but Blake Heibel looks to be out, so we're going with Jake Siebert as a kicker. He hasn't proven himself. Here you go. You're on the national stage now, or you're in a national title game against Alabama. Go kick a 50-yarder to win the game. No, you got to – I mean, that's not red zone, obviously, but
Ryan Day's like, no, I just want the Hail Mary.
Yeah, it's like –
you only need 3. You're only down by 1. I don't care. Hail Mary.
I trust Justin. Throw it into a crowd. But anyway – and because so I think there's going to be a lot of I think Nevada said it on Buckeye Scoop. I'll give him some credit here. There's a lot of well, it's just 4-down territory. I don't care, unless it's a chip shot field goal.
Mad rules.
But yeah, but you don't want to in the red zone you can't settle for field goals. That's the whole point, because what happened to us at Clemson. We all know what happened there, and this is the same kind of game. Even if your defense is playing well for a little while, they will figure it out at some point, and they will score on you. So get touchdowns in the red zone, and then of course third, you got to get just pressure. Continue to get pressure. That's such a key, and I don't know how we're going to get it. We got to get pressure and force mistakes. That should really be more linked with number 1, but those are the 3 main keys for me, in my opinion, that are maybe a little undervalued at times, but at the same time, it's just get timely turnovers, score touchdowns in the red zone, and get pressure. Just make Mac Jones uncomfortable.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. A little bit of pressure, a little bit of timeliness on the defensive end. And offense, though, all that to say, offense has to be sharp all game long, just because this offense is really good. Cory, I appreciate it. It's a lot of fun. We will see you back here, I guess, for our live show about an hour and a half before the game.
Yep. Yeah. Looking forward to it.
All right, you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, we bid you goodbye. God bless.